I'm McKinney Smith. After going through a divorce, my sister passing away, experiencing narcissistic abuse, and some significant health scares, I realized through sharing my story that I wasn't alone in my suffering. Suffering, subjective distress generated by the experience of being out of balance. In a deep dive to holistically heal mind, body, and soul is where I discovered peace, clarity, and connection. It is impossible to be truly wise without some real life hardship, and we cannot develop post-traumatic wisdom without making it through, and most importantly, through it together. Social connection builds resilience, and resilience helps create post-traumatic wisdom, and that wisdom leads to hope. Hope for you and others witnessing and participating in your healing, and hope for your community. A healthy community is a healing community, and a healing community is full of hope because it has seen its own people weather, survive, and thrive. Efia Leatham is a best-selling author, impact speaker, minister, and transformational leader. She owns the award-winning Canadian jewelry company Kingdom Beads. Efia hosts the broadcast To the Throne Tuesdays with Efia on Facebook and Instagram, offering insights from her books. Her latest book, Frame Your Day, Frame Your Life for Victory in 60 Seconds, focuses on mindset transformation for goal achievement. Previously a radio personality, Afia now leads a weekly prayer group for women and runs Project Warm Up, a homeless ministry. So please welcome to the show, Efia Leatham.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I thought I was going to be clapping for myself, but I was like, that's kind of...
I'm clapping for you, girl. I'm clapping for you. We made it today. We made it happen.
Right?
For those who are just tuning in and listening today, I mean, there's been many times where I've had guests on that we've had plans to record the podcast episode. Life happens and, things get pushed back. I truly believe that nothing happens before its time. We've had our reschedules, but here we are making it happen. So I am clapping because we showed up.
No. Thank you. I'm going to say thank you so much for having me, reaching out, to want to have the conversation. Like you said, life has happened and so much has happened from when our original, and here we are now in 2024.
Right?
Almost half a year has gone by, but here we are.
But we are here.
Yeah.
I definitely want to speak more to even that in itself. But before I get there, I love to go way, way, way back and dig deep.
Okay.
So I would love to know first, what is your earliest childhood memory that defines who you are today?
Thanks. Right off the bat. And I'm like, what? I remember, thanks, Bikini. Really, I'm like, wait a second. Because if I'm honest, I've had some people, you would never know because of just how you present yourself to people. But there was some very big trauma in my childhood that nobody knows, right? And you carry that on, you keep it. And I think even that plays part of who I am today. But I remember I can't remember how old I was. I must have been like 7, maybe 7, could be even a bit, maybe 6, 7, somewhere in there. And I remember coming down the stairs at my house and I had socks on, and lucky I didn't slip on the wood stairs. And I'm just like, I'm going to be a dancer. I'm going to be a ballerina who is a stewardess who sings, and I'm gonna entertain. I was born to entertain. This is where my life is, and I'm like, what? And now as you ask the question, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, wow, I knew I would have a microphone, but I did not know, or what I thought I was going to do with that microphone is not what I'm doing now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I pursued music, wanted to be in music. But here I am now on a completely different side, but still using a microphone.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that may be that moment coming down the stairs as a little girl. Like, I was born to entertain.
Yeah. Yeah.
I, I don't know if what we so much we do is entertaining, but
You know, as I think about what you said, and I'm picturing the little girl coming down the stairs, and what I get from that is like, you knew that you were going to be multifaceted. You knew that you were going to be like, you would have an audience. Like, you were naming all of these things, and you are multifaceted. You are someone that speaks in front of an audience. So maybe even as a child, just listing all of these things, you knew that you weren't going to box yourself into one thing.
this is true. I don't know how I was going to be a ballerina as a stewardess, but let's go out. I'm like, oh, okay.
So when you said, you had a lot of childhood traumas, things that you didn't even know, I feel like even the transition of the title of the show stemmed from me becoming aware of traumas and wounds that I had that I wasn't aware of previously. And interesting enough, lately there's been a lot of conversations because unintentionally, I pay a lot of attention to how people operate, how they function, why they function the way that they do, why they do the things they do, and their habits and all that. And explaining to people around me that a lot of the things that they do that they aren't aware of, when I, gently point it out to them, that it's typically trauma responses. It's them not even realizing all of the habits that they have that are a result of their trauma way back in childhood. So sometimes we don't even realize the things that we're doing now, where they stem from, like the root of those behaviors stem from.
That's a real great analysis, because a lot of the times we can just put a blind eye to a lot of things. And you now say, oh, that's just how I am.
Mm-hmm.
But what made you become that individual? Why are you just that way?
Right.
And, and you hear people get that cliche, do the work, dig deep. It's such a real thing to like, it's a real thing, but it became so cliche.
Mm-hmm.
But are you doing the work? What is the work?
Mm.
And how do you get to that place? And, I know for myself, there was one time where I was in the shower, and I don't know how I got here, but I was in the shower and I had a complete meltdown, like, and all the trauma just hit me. And I was like sobbing and recalling the things that happened, not realizing I had buried them for so long,
Mm-hmm.
until one day it decided it was going to show itself.
Mm.
And then I realized I had never dealt with it. I was never healed from it. And it was impacting every part of me.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm. Yeah. Okay. So let's unpack that, because even as you say that, it was a few books that I've read where the author, one of them, she was a psychologist. One of them was, I can't remember their titles, but it was like them explaining how they had experiences that unlocked things that they had completely forgotten about their childhood, that they had blocked out. And again, when we experience severe trauma as a coping mechanism, sometimes our brain will block that out, or our body will block certain things out. One of the books that I remember, and I'm trying to remember now the name of the darn book, but the psychologist, basically, she was having pains in her stomach. And I'm trying to remember if it was when she had her child or before she had her child. But long
okay.
story short, she had come from a religious background. Her father was, I think it was like a Mennonite or something like that. I can't remember. But she started remembering that she was molested as a child. And the pains that she was feeling was like those things coming back up. So I'm learning in my recent years how possible it is for those things to happen, and hearing stories from people in my family. So I guess for you, when those things started to come up, how did you handle that? How did you process that and get through it?
If I'm honest, I think there's some things I may not have gotten through yet, and I'm still processing.
Mm.
I think one of the biggest things for me was when, I don't know how many people know, I had a daughter in 1995, and my daughter had passed away 16 days, 17 days after she was born.
Wow, I'm sorry to hear
And
that.
you know what? I've learned everything, what you said, everything happens for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and everything that we go through, this is one of the things that helped me understand everything we go through in life makes us an advocate for somebody else.
Yes.
And when I was going through that, I remember my grandmother saying to me, I don't know what you're crying about. That's not your child. God loves her more than you could ever love her.
Mm.
And if I tell you the truth, at the time, I was like, who is she talking to? And why is she so stink and rude?
Mm-hmm.
But not realizing that my grandmother had suffered loss of children herself.
Mm-hmm.
My mom is the eldest, but my mother was a twin. Her twin had passed at birth.
Oh, wow.
And then my grandmother had lost my uncle when he was 12 or 13. And at this point, she had already had her 5 kids. I think it was 5 kids she had. 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
She had 5 kids, plus the one who got passed at, and the twin. And it wasn't until like a year later, I don't know why it came back up. And I was like, she knew what she was talking about,
Mm-hmm.
because that was the thing that gave her strength for her to keep going. I think for me, where it hit me a little harder was that was my only child at the time. I didn't have any other kids. And for some reason, I've never gone back to have any more children. And I don't know if it's, psychologically, I didn't want to go through it again, or I don't know what that is about. But it was sitting there and realizing that my grandmother talking to me, telling me that, came from a place of advocacy,
Mm-hmm.
because she had gone through it. And then after I went through it, I then connected with women who were going through it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, how did you get through it? And I remember a lot of people saying, well, she's young, she'll get over it, she'll have more kids later on in life. And I was like, please don't be dismissive
Mm-hmm.
of, the experiences and what I'm going through because of my age.
Yeah.
What has happened is very real, and it impacts you to a certain capacity. I didn't even know how to grieve when when I had lost my daughter. No clue. And it wasn't until like much years later. And the truth of it is sometimes I still have issues, because I'll see, girlfriends of mine who had kids around the same time. I'm now seeing their children who, they're now coming into their 30s, and some of their kids are now having kids and all these other things. And it can be touch and go for me at any given point. Like some days I'm okay, some days I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, but I know if they tell you what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. That cliche for me, I'm like, I don't know if it makes you stronger. It just allows you to be a shoulder for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And I try, right? I
Mm-hmm.
try, but I don't want to try. And I know we were talking about this earlier, but I don't want to try at the expense of completely losing myself, that I can't continue to help others because I have nothing else left in my own tank.
Yeah. 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 That part. Wow. A couple of things that you said there that I want to unpack. I guess from the beginning where you said, the stuff that we go through makes us advocates for others. I strongly believe that. I've been saying for the last few years on this podcast, like our pain births our purpose. Sometimes we're like, why does somebody go so hard at, what they do or their mission or, whatever it is. And it's like, it's based on what they've been through. They've been through some stuff that makes them not want other people to experience the same thing or to feel those kind of hurts, or, to maybe help them get through, to be their blueprint or their map or whatever you want to call it. But also to your grandmother, who I guess tried to give you some words of encouragement, but also knowing when we are in the moment and we're feeling a certain way, like I remember when my sister died and people said stuff to me and I wanted to punch them in their throat.
Straight up. But I can't punch you because you're my grandmother. Like what? And the words I'm using are very choice words for your podcast, because I was like, what on? No.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's the other thing that we need to be careful of, especially people. I'm saying to the people who are listening, because sometimes we try to help someone by saying things, and sometimes what we're saying invalidates that person's feelings in the moment.
Yes.
Or makes them feel like their experience is being dismissed, or that, they shouldn't feel the way that they feel. And it actually can do more harm than good.
Yeah, I agree. When I say I agree, because I think from a standpoint, for those of us, when I say those of us, those who are in coaching and mentoring and teaching and all these other things, we have to be very mindful of the things that we say. And I know we can be, I think most times most are mindful. But then when it comes to, I think, dealing with your colleagues and those on the same level as you, that you go to, because I said to you earlier, where does the coach and where does the therapist go when they need coaching and therapy?
Mm-hmm.
And you said something really, for me, I was like, because of who you are, they tend to say you should know better. You should know how to deal with it. And so in my transparency, I was saying to McKinney earlier, I feel like I'm self-sabotaging right now, and I don't know why, and trying to identify what is happening, because I've been helping everybody do what they need to do and accomplish the goals that they need to accomplish or they want to accomplish. Yet here I am trying to figure out what the heck's going on in my own life.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, I feel sometimes I'm like, how is this even possible?
Mm-hmm.
You know how to help everybody else? What's going on with you?
Mm-hmm.
So I've got to figure this self-sabotage thing out.
Listen,
Or I'm booking you and I'm coming to you.
I got you. We all need somebody. Like I learned from my mentor years ago, every good coach has a coach. Therapists
100%.
go to therapy. Like we all need somebody, no matter what level we are on. We need someone else to assist us, to hold us accountable, to help us see our blind spots. As coaches, therapists, mentors, all these things, it's easier for us to look at someone else's life and point out their blind spots and let them know where the gaps are and what is missing. And as much as we know all of this material and information, and as much as we apply it on a daily basis, we're human beings first. We are humans. We are human beings. We have feelings. We have all of these things that everybody else has. Just because we have a toolbox full of tools doesn't mean that we're always prepared to open that toolbox and utilize those tools.
Oh, very true.
Right?
So true. That is so true. Like my box is closed right now. Let me know. Like the box is closed.
But we have seasons, and I love your transparency, because there have been seasons in my life where I'm getting the great testimonials. I'm hearing all the impact I'm making in other people's lives, and I'm sitting here saying to myself, "Oh, but what am I doing? Like, really, what is happening inside my household right now? What is going on?"
Mm-hmm.
And it makes you question your ability as a coach. It makes you feel like, am I being a fraud? Like, what is happening here?
Right.
Right? The self-sabotage kicks in. But we are human. We're human beings, and we have these experiences. And many times I've had these experiences where I've felt low, and I've had to kick myself in the butt and be like, okay, open up your toolbox. Let's go back to the basics and remove all of these things. You shared with me just before we started recording that you right now, you're not into social media. Girl, I have been off of putting stuff out into the world on a regular basis since probably November. And I was someone that used to post on Instagram 4 times a day, putting out content, to reducing it to once a day, to reducing it to, I don't know, I could probably count on one hand how many things I put out since November, and probably 3 of them were about my granddaughter or my kids. Like nothing work related, because I feel like I'm in the season of watering me now. I'm trying to refill my cup because I've depleted myself giving so much and not being given back to in return.
Yes. When you say social media, I think I posted Happy New Year for 2024. And then I posted one thing a couple weeks ago for NHL All-Star.
Mm.
And that for me felt like it took so much out of me just to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's because where I am right now and what you're saying, watering you, over the past couple of years, I've gone through so much health-wise that I just went on a big sabbatical. Like I've had 2 surgeries in 2 years. And, it was just like a whole lot of stuff. And I keep getting messages from people, hey, where are you? You need to come back on. You need to teach. And I think for myself, from a place of yes, coach, yes, therapist, but because also I hold a spiritual position, right, in the body of Christ and teaching and ministering, people tend to say to me, you should be able to pray yourself through this. And I'm like, there's more to it than, and I will never discount prayer ever, but there's more to it than just praying. Because I pray every day, McKinney, every day, multiple times a day, some days. But I'm still in this place where I am at right now. And then they'll say, well, it's a spiritual attack. Okay, that might be very true, but I need to be able to say, Effie, open up that toolbox, get in there and get out. Like, do what you need to do.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that I am not the only person going through stuff like this. And I'm always very transparent because I know that it's in our transparency that we allow or help others heal and grow. Right. And when I start saying stuff, people message me, they'll DM me and we're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know. Yeah. Because how many of us in these quote unquote, my air quotations, because nobody can see them, my air quotes, that are in this place, in this position, that are willing to be open, vulnerable, and transparent so that the masses can heal and grow from where they are and what they're going through.
Yeah. I appreciate your transparency more than you know, for multiple reasons. One, I had a guest 2 days ago. We've been rescheduling for months. And 2 days ago, she came on to record. And just before we hit record, she says, in full transparency, I've been listening to some episodes and I feel like your guests share from a more healed place. And I'm in a transition where I feel like I'm not confident in what I'm sharing. Can we reschedule? And I tried to suggest to her, like,
that would have been
my audience
huge.
loves the transparency. My audience, because social media, because everyone is trying to keep up with the highlight reels of social media, they see things and they feel like that life is not attainable for them, that they can't have or be those things. And it's so far out of reach and it's discouraging. What I love about the podcast is the transparency where people are like, oh, they go through the real stuff we do too. They experience the real stuff that we do too. So how can we, get through this? She wasn't ready. So I completely understand.
Right.
But this is why I appreciate your transparency, because there are so many people that are listening that aren't, coaches or mentors or therapists. And they're probably sitting there thinking to themselves, like, what is wrong with me? I'm the only person on the planet doing this? And they're feeling shame. They're feeling, doubt, worry, fear, all these negative things, and afraid to seek help or even come out of that dark place because they think it's just them by themselves.
Yeah. And, from where I sit, and I think you probably sit from the same place, because we do this on a consistent everyday basis. This is This is who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I never want to get caught up in my identity being, this is who I am. No,
Mm-hmm.
this is what I do, not
Yeah.
who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And who I am is real, like every other woman that goes through every up, every down. I probably have a few more downs than most people. I do also believe those who are called to certain roles and positions in life tend to have a lot more to handle and deal with than those who are not, simply because what you say you are, what you do, is always going to be tested to see, are you truly legit at what you say you do?
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing I've learned in this season, if I say season, because I'm going to say it's a season because I will be out of it and I'm hoping very soon. Or I might be coming out of it right now. I don't know. But in this season, I do not want to discount what I'm going through and what I'm feeling, because
Right.
what I am dealing with is real.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm dealing with, yes, it is a season. There is validity to it. But what I do know is that we do not get stuck in the moment. You
Mm-hmm.
cannot get stuck there because then you live there, and I'm not building a house here,
Mm-hmm.
right? Am I being tested? Probably. Um, am I failing a test? I doubt it, because again, everything we go through is just going to add to what we have, again, to help others. And if your viewers or your listeners or viewers could, I would not want to say viewers, but could see this, I got a dog in August, and this dog has been quiet all day. He has decided that I'm sitting here on a podcast, that he's coming to hump my leg, and he's
I was
tap
like, what is
dancing.
that sound?
He's tap dancing on the floor. And I'm like, how do I can't even minimize or mask. Like, I can't. Here's my transparency, guys. This is my life. It's just chaos. Like, complete chaos. Like, why? Why are you do? I even left the balcony door open for him to go outside. No, but he wants to tap dance. And I'm like, can you hear this? Can they hear this
I heard
madness in
the
my
sound.
this dog? Like, I don't understand.
So, before you said that, there was a couple of things that I wanted to say about so I okay. One, I feel like we are completely like on the same page with a lot of things. We're in alignment with a lot of things, even with how we view things, because it is a season. And I find when I am in those seasons, the learning process, the learning curve strengthens the tools that are in my toolbox. And I am someone who prefers to share from my scars, not my open wounds. So when the wound is there and it's open, I take a step back and allow some healing to happen so that I can come out now and say what has been happening, and in the be it's almost like I'm more able to be transparent about what transpired because I'm not trying to cover up or speak through the pain. And allow other people to basically piss on the wound because, people can be very mean.
Right? Salt, vinegar, and all of it in there? No, thank you.
Yeah.
No, thanks.
And you said something about, the work that we do in our life. And I completely align with that as well, because I strongly believe that this is work that I'm doing in my life, but it's not my life's work. And if I were to have attached my identity to that, when I am down, that would make me feel like nothing.
Yeah. And that's a real place to be. I know I hear a lot of times, I've heard, I should say, that men define themselves by what they do,
Mm-hmm.
and they forget who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas women know who they are and they're able to define what they do.
Mm-hmm.
I think in this day and age, though, because everything is so hyper, I don't know what word to use. Everything is just, let's just say hyper. It's on 1000 all the time. Things are getting crossed.
Mm-hmm.
And again, with the tools of social media and trying to attain things, and the majority of it's not even real.
Mm-hmm.
because on social media, I'm posting what I want you to see.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get to see what you're saying, the open wound. You don't see me, bleeding. You don't see any of this stuff because I don't want you to see it because I have a face I have to keep up for everybody. And, you know, those who are willing to be transparent, it's like you, I agree with, I'll be transparent from my wound, not my wound, sorry, my scars, because
Mm-hmm.
my scars don't hurt anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I can reflect and look back and say, when I was here, this is what happened. This is what I did. I now know how I got through it.
Right.
But that wound thing, especially when the wound is still bleeding, I am not trying to bleed on everybody else
Right. That part.
because I'll tell you, me being this everything else, but then add in a teacher, a minister, a prophet, all these things, start adding these things in here and let me start bleeding on people. It's a bigger
Mm-hmm.
issue,
Mm-hmm. And
right?
I've
Like,
seen it, like from other
oh,
people. I've seen pastors bleed from the pulpit.
I'm not trying to be that person. But God,
Mm-hmm.
I thank God for giving me enough wisdom to say certain things you're going through, pull back.
Yeah.
Completely shut it down, go on a sabbatical, get through what you need to get through. Then you can come back and teach and show people how you got through it, how God helped me through it, what I did, how my life of faith took me through. And I would rather be that person than just be on, I'm never going to do anything for clicks.
Yeah.
I am never going to do stuff for views.
Yeah.
I'm just never, that's not me. And that's never
Yeah.
been me.
Yeah. Because there's no
So
depth to that.
there's zero.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be zero.
Yeah.
Right. I think I've put in enough of who I am as an individual, in this journey to say what I have gone through, what I'm going through, what I'm doing, it has value, it has worth, it is beneficial to others, and it's beneficial to me first.
Yeah.
But I have to step back and look at it and take it in for me first before I can then give it to you.
Yes.
And I think if I can be honest with myself to say, hey, now is not the time. Give yourself a minute, give your, whatever it is you need, then come back and say, okay, I can go forward. I can do this. I can do that. And now I can be of assistance. I can be the shoulder. I can be a voice of reason. I can
Mhm.
be all those other things that we're called to be. I can then be that because I'm not bleeding. I'm not hurting. Not saying that we're not going to continue go through things because we're going to continually hurt and we're going to bleed the rest of our
Mhm.
lives while we're here on earth.
Mhm.
But being able to somehow, and this word always trips me up, compartmentalize
Mhm.
certain things. Men do that very well.
Yeah.
Where for me, I'm still learning.
Mhm.
And I had a pastor one time tell me, men are like waffles, women are like spaghetti. And I was like, wow, as simple as that is, that's so profound to me. Because waffles, you can pour your syrup and everything goes into a little
The square.
socket, a little
Yeah.
square, and it sits there.
Yeah.
Women, pour some spaghetti sauce on the noodle. The whole thing is covered and it's a mess. And you're like, and I was like, oh my gosh, that is so profound. As simple as it is. I'm like, I get you. And it's being able, not that we want to be masculine or men, but being able to sometimes put things in compartments and let's come back and deal with it when it needs to be dealt with so that it's not pouring into every area of your life.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think at this point, I'm trying to do that. I don't know how successful I am at it, if I'm going to be honest. Um, but from a holistic standpoint, I know there has been change and
Mhm.
there has been effective change. Um, from what I used to be to who I am now, I used to be a real outdoor person, real extrovert. And it's so funny when you look back and you're like, girl, you were lying to yourself your whole life. You're not an extrovert.
Mm.
You just know how to be extroverted when you need to be,
Right. That part.
right? I can say now, I never fit in anywhere. My
Mhm.
whole life, McKinney. I never fit in. And I realized what I was doing was trying to make myself fit into place
Mm,
that I had no business. I was the circle trying to go into the square. Where are you going?
mm-hmm.
It doesn't work. And it's not until, at some part of adulthood, I don't even know what age, could have been my 40s, I don't know, early 40s, that I realized you weren't meant to fit in these places because that's not who you are. That's not your
Yeah.
calling.
Yeah.
Your calling is this, and you're walking this. And it's okay because you weren't meant for that.
Yeah.
And it's me talking now to the 13-year-old me or the
Mm-hmm.
16-year-old me. Yes, there were things that happened prior to that skewed life for you, but it's okay because who you are mattered. You didn't
Mm-hmm.
have to try to fit into to this group or that group. You didn't have to try all these things. You're great just the way you are. I was going
Yeah.
to say perfect, but it's not perfect. God God makes us the way we are, and we're perfect in Christ. But you were good the way you were.
Yeah.
And yes, people didn't accept you. And yes, people didn't like you, but that was okay because you were still good the way you were. But how
Mm-hmm.
many of us can actually get that as young kids to know that we're okay, like we're okay the way we are? And,
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had access to that as a child because I'm pretty sure things would be different. But would I want everything different? Not necessarily, because then I would not be doing what I'm doing now.
Right.
I might have a different perspective, but I don't even know if what I went through and what I've done, if I would be doing what I do now and understanding the importance of transparency,
Mm-hmm.
honesty, integrity, right? Just those simple things. Then I'm like, why is it that we're in a world now where honesty, it doesn't matter? You're getting, alternative facts. What is alternative fact?
Right.
What do you mean? Or I hear I'll tell you, for those who use this, I don't mean to offend you, but speaking your truth.
Mm-hmm.
There is only the truth.
Mm-hmm.
There is not your truth.
Mm-hmm.
It's either true or it's
Or not
not.
true.
I'm like,
So
oh,
here's one thing I've learned to that point, because I have
mhm,
people around me that use that line a lot. Um, and I I think, I don't remember if it was myself or someone else in the circle had said to someone, like, when you constantly start your sentence with "I'm speaking my truth," it makes people question whether you're telling the truth. but but I also understand, I think, because I try to understand things from other people's perspective, and I feel like, so, perception, right? Our perception, based on our upbringing, our views, our religion, our beliefs, our
mhm,
experiences shape our perception. And
yes.
you and I could be in the same room having the same experience, but based on our perception, we may perceive that experience differently. So,
Completely true.
I guess the and I wouldn't say your truth versus my truth. It's your version of how you perceive the events and my version of how I perceive the events. But like you said, there is one truth.
That's it.
Yeah.
No, and I like that because I think from a perception place, I think that saying my truth, I think it's more so of being used to validate your feelings. And if we could just become honest with ourselves and not allow society to dictate what is and what isn't, I think there would be a lot more healed individuals walking around.
Absolutely.
But again, it's, are you willing to put in the work and put in
Yeah.
the effort to get to where you need to be?
And a
And
lot of people aren't, because it's uncomfortable. I have seen through personal experience, as I go through my healing journey and dig deeper on things, that there are people around me that can't handle that because it forces them to have to address or pay attention or be aware of things that they don't want to deal with. They don't want to deal with their past. They don't
Mhm.
want to deal with the uncomfortable feelings. They don't want to deal with the discomfort that is required to heal certain things. They would rather cover it up with, this is how I am. Mind you, if I sit back and I'm like, no, that's a trauma response. You're a people pleaser and you people please because you don't want anybody to get upset because you want to make like you can see it clearly, but not everybody wants to do the work.
No. And I think, from what you just said, one of the things is when people are brought to awareness,
Mm.
awareness forces accountability and
That part.
ownership. And nobody wants to take ownership or accountability for their own, and I don't want to say shortcomings, but their flaws, their errors. It's easier for us to blame everybody else for what's
Yep.
going on in our lives than to say what you just, let's do the work. Take account, face it, deal with it, and let's heal and keep moving.
Yeah.
But here we are.
Listen.
Right?
Girl,
I will do it. I will do the work for myself because I know in me doing the work for me, it helps you.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say you, helps the other person on the other end.
Mm-hmm.
But then it might help you, McKinney, because you're able to see whatever, and then what you're going through now helps me.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, I think, where we're supposed to be. It's each one teach one.
Mm-hmm.
Stretch your hand out and let's grab it and let's go together. Like, what are we doing? Because if we're not here to help each other, then what are we really doing?
Yeah.
What's the point?
Yeah. I'm that friend that annoys my friends because I will read a book or listen to a podcast or, come across someone that I love their message and I'll send it to people. Like if I think it applies, you know what I mean? Like I'm not out here spamming people's messages.
The annoying friend. Oh, McKinney, all right, already. What's another one?
Like, if my therapist recommends a book and I'm reading it and I'm like, oh, I really think Afia would love this book, I'm going to send it to you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I understand that everyone's healing process is different. Everyone's pace of healing is different, but I always do what I can to assist. If I know that someone may not necessarily be ready to hear, someone else pointing out what is going on in their life, I'll recommend a book that hopefully you may read the book and have your own aha moment. Right.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
When you were talking about reading a book, I started reading a book and I need to go back and actually finish it. And I think it's called, The Body Keeps Count, or The Body
Keeps Score.
That's it.
I read it. Yeah.
I've started it twice and I have not been able to finish it. And I'm like, girl, figure it out, get in it and read it. Because I know I know I got it for a reason.
Absolutely. Are you reading the physical copy or?
Yes. No. Physical hardback copy.
Okay. So I have the physical hardback copy and I've also read it in audiobook. So I read it in audiobook first and then I got the physical copy because there was so much in there that I was like, oh, I need to highlight this. I need to.
Right.
So it's long. I think like 10 hours long or something in audiobook. But if you don't have the capacity to sit and read and you need to get through it, because I do think based on everything that you've experienced, I do think it would be beneficial for you. I think that book, it helped me even remove some of the titles of medical diagnosis that I've had in the past for physical things. So I definitely think it would be helpful for you. Everything that we're feeling, everything that we've experienced, everything, all of that trauma, our body's storing all of that in our cells. And it's causing cancer. It's causing, all of these health issues because we are not processing the trauma. We're not processing those feelings. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia in 2006. And for years, I lived on that diagnosis. I was like, oh, I can't. I have fibromyalgia. I have fibromyalgia. I was like bedridden 6 out of 7 days a week. I have fibromyalgia. I started to understand how our body holds on to that trauma and the importance of releasing it and healing. Mm-hmm. And I don't have fibromyalgia flare-ups anymore because medically, they diagnosed me with fibromyalgia. When you start to pay attention to the trauma and how it affects our bodies, it was the anxiety and the depression that I was experiencing from the trauma that was physically manifesting in my body and causing those symptoms. I don't have those symptoms no more.
Come on.
So read it in an audiobook first if you need to.
Okay. I will definitely do that.
Yeah. 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 Girl, listen, we could talk for days. I love when I have other coaches, therapists, mentors, and stuff like that come on the show because I feel like, we're talking on the same level here.
Mhm.
So I definitely need to have you back for a second episode. Um,
Let's not try for another 6 months to see if we can get it in now. Like, oh my gosh, right? No, I would love it because I think there's so much more we can still unpack. 'Cause we're just
Absolutely.
literally scratching the surface. I mean, and one of the things I really do appreciate is that you have a platform in this capacity that allows people to come in and talk. I love that, when you listen to your guests, you can hear, yes, there was something, but they're all talking from the wound, from the scar. What is with me in the wound? They're talking from the place of the scar.
Hmm.
And that can be such a uplifting moment for people listening. But I do also appreciate what you say, people who are willing to be vulnerable and just, hey, let's just talk. This is where it is.
Hmm.
Um, Thank you for also making it a safe space for people to come in and, and just dump their load. And I understand, as you say, no, we speak on the same level, that some guests may be a little more heavy. And then when you're done, you need to go and, process and release for yourself.
Hmm.
So, those who are listening and those who will be future guests, please be easy when you're dumping on McKinney, please. Because we still need her to be functioning. Yeah.
Yeah. So my therapist said that the podcast for me is a form of releasing stress because I get to have conversations that many people don't get to have on a daily basis. So every
Yeah.
week, in addition to my weekly sessions with her, I'm having therapy through community, right?
Right. Which is awesome. Very, very
Yeah.
awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so before we go to the final segment, I want you to tell people, even though you're taking a break, where they could stay connected with you online, where they can learn more from you, about you, where they can get your books and all that good stuff.
So I'm on Instagram, at Efia Leatham, Twitter, Efia Leatham. Now, granted, my Twitter, I probably need to spark up a little more, but it's there. Facebook is Efia Leatham, website, efialeatham.com. Um, don't go there right now. I need to do some updating. If I'm honest.
By the
Listen,
time this
I have,
airs, I'm sure you'll be fine.
I'm like, I'm on sabbatical, but I'm coming back. Also, you can purchase my books on Amazon. They're global and on efialeatham.com. Um, I am looking forward to that moment where I know I'm released and that I can just come back and do what I love doing. Because I love doing what I do.
Hmm.
But I have to love me a little bit more so that
Hmm.
I can be able to do those things. But I'm around. You'll find me. Just type in Efia Leatham and you'll find me. I'm there.
I'll
Like,
definitely have all of your links in the detailed section below the episode so they can just click and connect with you directly. They don't have to go searching all over the internet because the
oh
internet
my
streets
God.
be crazy sometimes.
No, no, right? And that's having somebody who's not me saying they me. So thank you. I
Like,
appreciate the link.
can't even tell you the amount of times people have created pages and what's it not under my name. Like, yeah, no. Even when I first joined Instagram, the reason I have to use the real McKinney Smith is because someone else has McKinney Smith. And sometimes people will tag the wrong page. And I'm like, that lady don't even use her account. But anyways.
No. Yes. McKinney, thank you
Okay.
so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And like I said, when you are ready and you're out of this season, we'll do a part two. Because I believe that that'll also be extremely impactful for you to come back and share your lessons, that you've
Oh, yeah.
had through this stage and how that's helped you. Definitely, definitely, definitely.
No, for sure. I would love to do that. And again, I'm thankful that you have this outlet. And I think the more that we're willing to be transparent, the more people we're going to be able to help.
Hmm.
So I'm
Amen.
all
Thank
for it.
you. Yes, I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
All right. Well, to all you healers out there, until next time, subscribe on all platforms. Don't forget to rate the show, leave us a review on Apple Podcast. We want to hear what part of Afia's story resonated with you. Maybe you're going through the same thing. Maybe you just needed that validation or, just that confirmation that you're not alone. We would love to hear from you. Leave it in a review. Or feel free to screenshot this episode and you can tag us on Instagram. You can tag Afia at EFIALEATHAM, and you can tag myself at The Real McKinney Smith. And I just want to thank each and every one of you that continues to listen each week to help the show rank globally in the top 1.5% of most popular podcasts out there. A healthy community is a healing community, and a healing community is full of hope because it has seen its own people weather, survive, and thrive. So let's continue to heal her.